Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel AWS DevOps Net Level. So in this video, we are going to take up the topic AWS ECR, which is Elastic Container Registry. It is a native container registry provided by AWS. So we are going to do a lab demo on AWS ECR, how to create a repository in ECR, and how to upload our application image onto the Elastic Container Registry. So now before getting into the ECR, what are all the various container registries that are available in the market? So we have Azure Container Registry, which is the ACR. Then for Google, we have the Google Artifact Registry. Then we also have a container registry for GitHub as well, which is the GitHub Container Registry. Then we have a GitLab Container Registry. Then we also have Harbor, which is another open source container registry for storing your application images. And it also has the option to even sign your images to make them more secure. Then we also have Red Hat Quay, which is another application repository provided by Red Hat. Then we have JFrog Artifactory, which is a popular artifact repository to store your application artifacts that are built from various build tools, right? For example, if it is a Java artifact, it supports Maven to build the Java project. Similarly, if it is a Windows-based artifact, it can be built by the tools like NuGet or NPM, etc. So these are all the various artifact tools available in the market, or the application container repositories available in the market. So the one that we are going to talk about is ECR. It is a AWS native container registry that we can use to store our application images. So what is Elastic Container Registry? It is a fully managed Docker container registry that makes it easy for developers to store, manage, and deploy the Docker images. So we also know about Docker Hub. Docker Hub is another popular container registry. Okay, but if at all our environment is hosted on the AWS cloud, our applications are running as Docker applications, and we wanted to use the native storage repository within AWS, then we can go for ECR, the Elastic Container Registry. Okay, so now I think directly we can get into the lab demo and see how do you create a repository in ECR and how do you make your EC2 instance connect to the ECR and upload the application images. So let me go to the document here. So what is the first step? The first step is we need to create a public repo in ECR. It can be even a private repo also. Whether you want to make it public or private, it depends on your project. So let me go to the AWS console here and I will search for ECR. This is the Elastic Container Registry. It's a fully managed Docker container registry. So there is one existing repository which I will remove it. Okay, now I can create a folder here. A repository is like a folder in which you can upload your application images, right? So this is what we will do. So this will be the ECR repository in AWS. And this is where I'm going to store my application images. So let's say I have a EC2 instance, which is my application server. So I'm going to launch one Linux EC2 instance. Okay, on this instance, I will be installing Docker as well so that I can run my application as a container. So this instance is going to contain Docker. So using Docker, I'm going to build my custom image and I'm going to run the HTTPD application. So that custom image, I will be uploading it into the ECR repository. So the image that I'm going to build will be the Apache HTTPD image on this Linux EC2 instance, right? So that image will be copied onto or it will be uploaded onto the ECR, the Elastic Container Registry. So this is what we will do. So now the first step will be create a public repo or a private repo. Either we can create a public one or a private one in ECR. So let me go to the ECR console here and you can see the option. I'm inside the private registry now. So I will create one private repository. Okay, so I will say create repository and I can give a name. First, it will ask for the namespace. I will say demo and the name of the repository will be demo-repo. Okay, so it will be namespace/name. That is a format. So we will go with the default configurations here. You can see that for encrypting the images within the storage repository, it is using the default AES 256 algorithm, encryption algorithm. So let me create the repository. So now this is the first step where you create your repository in ECR. In our case, we have created a private repository. Right? So now let us go with the next step. We have to create an IAM role with the below permissions and we need to attach it to our EC2 instance. Right? So before we create the EC2 instance, first we have to create an IAM role, assign the needed permissions to the EC2 instance. So this is because the instance needs to have proper permissions for all the components within ECR so that it can upload and download the images without any issues. So now what are all the permissions that need to be created? So first is create an IAM role with the below permission. So let me go ahead and create an IAM role. I will search for IAM here. I'll click roles. We'll say create role. This is for AWS service. And for which service? EC2, because we are going to assign this role to the EC2 instance, right? And what is the permission we would need? The first permission will be Amazon Elastic Container, public full access. Next will be Amazon EC2 Container Registry, power user. Let me search for this as well. I've selected that. One second. Is on container registry public full access. Okay. Container registry power user. Yeah, this is also selected. It's asking for the role name. I will say ECR role, maybe with the today's date. Okay, and let us go ahead and create this role. If I click view role, you can see that these are the two permissions mapped. Container registry power user and container registry public full access. But this is not sufficient. You need to add one more role, which is a kind of a custom permission. You can see that there are some permissions given here. Action ECR get authorization token. So that EC2 instance should be able to authenticate with the ECR to get the authorization token. And it also needs to perform these functions like batch check layer availability, complete layer upload, get download URL for layer, and all these actions. Right. So for that, we need to create this custom policy as well and attach it to the role. So what I will do is I'm going to copy this and then create it as a custom policy. So let me go back to the roles here. I will say add permission, click create inline policy, and then I will go to the JSON editor directly. Here, I'll just add that permissions, click next. There is some syntax error it is saying. Maybe that's space here. Okay, let me try to copy this again. Let me paste it afresh. Okay, I think now it is fine. And I will just say ECR custom today's date. This is our custom policy. Okay, and I will say create policy. Now, if you see the role is having these two permissions. Along with that, it is also having this custom policy as well, right? Okay, now the role has been created. The next step is to create the EC2 instance. So launch a EC2 instance. I'm going to use a Linux instance. Then in that we will install Docker, start the Docker services, create the Docker file and the index.html for our HTTPD application, because we are going to upload the image of the HTTPD application onto the Elastic Container Registry, right? So now let me go ahead and launch the EC2 instance. Click launch instances. I will give the name as ECR demo. Okay, and AMI, let it be Linux 2023. Instance type, probably I can select t2.micro. Key pair, I have one key pair already created, so I will use the same thing. And security group, I will say enable the SSH traffic from my IP, and I will even allow HTTP also, because later on when I create a container to run the HTTP application, it should run on the port 80, right? So I'm enabling this as well. And then now let me go ahead and click launch instance. Okay, now the instance has been created. Let me log into this instance. The job credentials, let me upload my PPK file and let's log into the instance. The default username will be ec2-user. Okay, so what is my first step? Need to install Docker on this machine. Before that, let me increase the font size. Okay. On the EC2 instance, as I told you, this is a Linux machine. And in this, we are going to install Docker. Using Docker, we will be creating our custom image for HTTPD, and that image will be uploaded onto the ECR repository, right? So that is what we are going to do. First, let me go ahead and install Docker. Let me use the command yum install docker -y. Let me try to have a duplicate session. Sorry, there was a power interruption here. Okay, so I will say yum install docker -y. So it's installing Docker now. Okay, Docker installation has been completed. Let me quickly start the Docker service with the command service Docker. Okay, now we will give the status command. You can see that loaded Docker is active and running, right? So that is the first step. Okay. So the next thing is, so we have installed Docker, we have started the Docker. Now we will create the Docker file and also the index.html. So how do we create a Docker file? I will just say vi Docker file, and I will say from httpd colon latest. That is the latest tag, image tag that I want to download from the Docker Hub. Okay, and the second thing is I'm going to use this command, copy dot slash index.html, that is copy the index.html from the current directory, and then put it onto this particular path, user local apache to htdocs, which will be inside the container, which will be inside the httpd container. This is what I'm defining in my Docker file. Okay. Docker file has been created. Now we will create the index.html also. This is for the static content of the Apache HTTPD. So I will just give a header tag as ECR lab demo. Okay, so this is a static content I'm giving for the Apache HTTPD. Right, so these things are done now. Now what we need to do before we start interacting with the ECR, we will have to make sure that we have the latest version of the AWS CLI. Whatever comes built in with the AMI, that version may not be latest. So it's better to remove the existing AWS CLI version and install the latest version. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this command, yum remove AWS CLI. It's here. Now we will install the latest version of the CLI. We'll use this command. Okay, it has installed the latest version. Let us check the version using this command. Okay, it is version 2.32.6. That is the latest CLI version. Okay, so now we have created the permission. We assign it to our instance. We'll have to do that. So if I go to my instance, I need to first attach the role, whatever I have created, right? The ECR role. So that has to be attached to this instance. I go to actions, I go to security, modify IAM role, and I will say ECR role 2911. This is the one that we created, right? And we are assigning that role to this EC2 instance so that the instance will get all the needed permissions to interact with ECR. Okay, so that is our next step. Fine. Now, after this, what we'll do for the changes to take effect, I will just log off the session and then re-log in. Okay. So now in ECR actions, view push commands, now we will have to have our EC2 instance talk to the ECR. Okay. And for that, we need to set up the authentication. How do you set up the authentication? I go back to the ECR here. This is my ECR page, and you can see for this repository, if I click view push commands, you will get the sequence of commands here. So the first command is to download the authentication token from ECR so that the instance will be able to authenticate with ECR using that token. So we will just follow the steps here. I will copy this. Okay, great. You can see that it says login is succeeded, right? So we are able to successfully connect to the ECR. Next, we will use this command docker build -t, the namespace and the repo name. So let us quickly log into this session. Okay. second step will be to build the image using the docker build minus t command. Okay, now the custom HTTP image is being built. Okay, it has been built now. Okay, what is the third step? Okay, now we need to tag that image with this particular name. That is, it should have the name of the ECR repo. So I'm going to copy this command here. Just say docker tag demo slash demo hyphen repo colon latest. Latest is the latest version of the image. And I'm tagging it with the repo name here, right? Okay, now the tagging has been done. Now you will say Docker images. You can see here, this is the tagged image. Okay, and this is the endpoint. This is a URI of your ECR. This is the URI of your ECR. Okay, so you are saying upload the image onto this particular ECR URI, which is suffixed by demo slash repo. Right? This is your namespace. Demo is your namespace, and demo repo is nothing but your repository name. This is your repository name. Okay, so this is the format it actually takes. Okay, so now if I want to push my image, now which is my image? This is my custom image, right? The HTTP image. Now I want to push it to the ECR. So I give a very simple command, docker push, just give this complete path. Okay, that's it, enter. You can see here, now the image is getting pushed into the ECR registry. Okay, it has been pushed also. So let us verify. Now this is my repository, right? What I have created in ECR. And let me click this. Okay, you can see here. This is the image, what we uploaded from our EC2 instance to the ECR. This is having the latest tag. Okay. So this is how you upload the application image into the Elastic Container Registry. Okay. So now let us see, how do I download this image from the registry? So for that, ideally, we would need one more EC2 instance. But anyway, I'm going to use the same instance. And on this instance, I will remove all the images, right? So I will search for Docker images. And I'm going to give the command docker rmi minus f. I will remove all the images from this so that freshly we can download the image from the ECR. So now I will give the command docker images. There are no images, right? So docker push is used to push the images from the EC2 instance to the ECR. If I want to download the image from the ECR, what is the command? It is docker pull. So I will just say docker pull. I will take this ECR URI. You can see here, this is the URI of the ECR. So I will just say docker pull the ECR of the URI. That's it. It has downloaded it. So now we can verify it here. Docker images. Sorry. Docker images. This is the image that it has downloaded from the ECR. Now let's say I want to build my HTTPD container from this image. How to do that? So docker run minus d minus minus name my HTTPD container, right? And I will also mention the host port and container port. So minus p, host port is 80, colon, container port is also 80, and from which image I want to create this container. This is the image, right? I'm going to give the image ID. I can give the image name also, but I'm giving the image ID, right? From this image, it is going to create a Apache HTTPD container. Okay, so you can see that it has created it. And if I give the command docker ps, you can see that this is the container it has created, right? Now we will try to access this from the browser because we have opened the port 80, right? So it should be accessible from the browser. And in the index.html, what is the content we are given? ECR lab demo, and that is what we should see in the browser. We will have to see whether the security group is open. or it is taking HTTPS. That's a problem. It should be HTTP. Okay, let's see now. Yeah, you can see here. ECR lab demo. This is the content we have defined in the index.html. Okay, so what we did is we created a repository within ECR. Okay, and then we launched a Linux EC2 instance. In that instance, we installed Docker. Then we also created a custom image for our Tomcat. Then, using the authentication steps, we followed the steps to basically authenticate with the ECR and then tag that image name to the ECR's endpoint. And finally, using Docker push, we push the image into the ECR. Right. Similarly, for pulling the image, we just use a Docker pull and the ECR URI, and then we converted that image into a container, and we were able to access the application via the web browser. Right. So this is how you can create your application images and then upload them into the Elastic Container Registry. Okay, so yeah, that is a lab demo I wanted to give as part of this video. I hope it was helpful. So if you like this content, you can feel free to share it with your known circles. So thank you everyone. I will meet you all in my next video.